Houston ISD trustees have voted to increase property taxes by 3 cents, but it's unlikely to stem what many see as a disturbing trend. School districts, including HISD, cutting back on librarians. Since 2009, the number of certified school librarians has fallen by 10%, and some campuses have even closed their libraries. So are our children being shortchanged by shelving our librarians? That's what we're talking about this half hour, and we want to know what you think. As always, you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter with us. In our newsroom, we have our legal analyst, Chris Tridico, news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. All right, a lot of people very interested in this topic, of course. Some say despite the e-books, librarians are critical to selecting the best books and engaging our students. So should parents be fired up about this?
Absolutely. Librarians do a lot more than just put books on a shelf and apply the Dewey Decimal System that nobody else in the world seems to be able to understand. But there's a very important function, an education function that librarians perform every day. And this is not a Houston Independent School District problem. It's happening all over Texas. Spring Branch Independent School District cut all the assistant librarians a few years ago and is in the process of cutting librarians now. And this all goes back to the funding issue that started over 4 years ago when the legislature basically raided our education system of $4 billion, put most of that back this year, but they didn't increase any spending, and so school districts are having to struggle to balance their budgets, Jackie Bally. And this idea that we've got to make cuts, so let's cut librarians, that's taking education right out of the kids, isn't it?
Well, the idea that they're cutting librarians is part because of advanced technology. A lot of the kids are doing a lot of research on their computers, on their phones. And so certain administrators feel that if they're going to make a cut, this is where they're going to do it. Like you said, a lot of the dollars have been put back, and now you're looking at how each administration, each district is going to fund certain projects, fund certain items. And I think it's important that we put the dollars back in the classrooms, which is what you're now seeing. And unfortunately, in this particular instance, you're seeing someone, they're saying, well, the librarians are not going to be as productive, we're not using them anymore, and that's what we're seeing. They're being shortchanged.
Putting the dollars back to what it was 4 years ago really didn't do anything to help education, did it?
No, because you're still going backwards rather than increasing funding every year as other expenses rise. We've actually turned the clock back. But librarians are important not because of that they stock the books, but in today's time more so than ever, because you don't want kids to do research on Wikipedia, right? You want them to understand how to look for information, how to look for information that's meaningful. And so for that purpose, today I believe librarians are more important than they used to be, because there's so much information out there that you have to be able to discern and try to understand it, and a librarian can really help you do that.
I want to come back to this in a minute. Let me go to Sally's monitoring our social media accounts.
Yep, we are reading what you are writing in real time right now. Chris says, sad about the librarians. The old-fashioned ones have much insight and wisdom and can encourage kids to read. Brittany says, I can't believe the budget cuts. Schools should be the last that get cut. Governor Perry has repeatedly said that throwing money at education is not the answer. So what is the solution? Well,
the problem, Sally, is that's fine to say at a statewide level, because if you think that's what gets you votes. But all they did was they shifted that burden to the local districts. That's why you're seeing school districts like Houston have a 3-cent tax increase to make up the money that they used to get from the state of Texas. And that's really the political football that Governor Perry and the legislature did. Was, we're not going to give you the money, go raise your own taxes.
So is that a question?
Yes.
No, I mean, what you're seeing is you have a very tight budget, and the governor said, look, we are going to give you a certain amount of dollars. This is your budget. You need to work within the budget. Just like every other area, infrastructure. I mean, this is the first time that infrastructure even saw any kind of increase. So yes, the governor made his decision, the legislature made their decision, and they're saying each individual district will have to work within their budget. Now, to go back to a point that Mustafa made earlier, I don't think you're being realistic when he says that, we want our kids to go in and do discernible research in the way that we used to do it, because that's just not how our kids are. That's not the way they think. That's not the way that a lot of the schools, they give them iPads to do their research with. So that's not really being, it's not being rational.
Well, no, it's teaching kids critical thinking, because there's so much data, there's so many databases out there, so many research papers out there, that unless you have have someone who specializes in teaching you how to do those skills,
How to do the research.
you're not going to get it. But look, I think that this is basically passing the buck. Rather than taking the responsibility for balancing our budget, they're pushing it down to a lower to a lower level school board and having them take the hard political votes.
Right.
This is unacceptable by our leaders.
And we're not in a budget deficit
But
in
if you
Texas.
listen to the teachers and administrators, they want to have more control over how the dollars are spent, and they want to
Yeah,
have.
but they want the
and-
dollars.
Well, they did get the dollars, but if you listen to the teachers and administrators, they said we do want to have more control of how those dollars are spent.
I agree with that, but I don't think the state is funding the school districts at the level that they should be. And that's really the issue. That's why school districts are having to raise the taxes to make up for that deficit that they didn't get from the state, Sally. We're going to leave it right there.
All right, we'll see you in our next half hour to talk government shutdown then. Thanks, guys.